are live, Paul.
All right. I'm, as you know, your brother, Paul McDade, an assistant editor and occasional assistant editor, and once in a blue moon, an actor in the TV and film industry in Los Angeles. And this is my sister.
And I'm Liz McDade, a huge Columbo fan and a small business owner living in Santa Cruz, California. And this is Trenchcoat Cigar Peugeot Wandering with Columbo. In each episode, we'll bring you a little Hollywood history, glamour, and behind the scenes as we walk you through Columbo, one of America's greatest TV detective series. And today we are on season 5 at last, Paul.
Whoa, is this like the penultimate?
No, there's still a few to go, but it feels like an accomplishment.
Oh, yeah, I can't believe we've gone this far.
I know. Slowly but surely. And today we are going to be discussing Forgotten Lady, which is episode 1 of season 5. It first aired Sunday, September 13th in 1975, so almost 50 years ago. And every episode, we have a snack and a drink that's inspired by something in the show. And today's snack is a bread roll or ice cream, and the drink is brandy.
Which she forgot to tell me that part.
I know, I'm sorry. I just thought ice cream would be
just
kind
kidding.
of hard to enjoy over the podcast.
Yeah, because by the time I get started,
I know.
the coffee's cold, the food is cold.
Yeah. Oh, hang on, Paul. Wait a minute. Raymond is here with my brandy. Come on in, Raymond. Come on in.
Who's
Thank
Raymond?
You. He's my butler. Duh.
Raymond Chandler?
No, Raymond, Alma's husband.
Oh, Maurice Evans.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Maurice
Well,
Evans.
Raymond just brought me a little glass of the Christian Brothers brandy. And I'm also enjoying a bread roll. It is a King Hawaiian bread roll. It's like a little sweet bread roll.
May I see it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'll put a picture on our Instagram so that everyone can see my lovely drink and snack.
But it's supposed to be a bun.
It is a bun.
Just kidding. Yeah, I was gonna toast a gluten-free. I left the wrapper, but they were bad. The bread was moldy, so I was like, "Oh man!"
Oh no!
So, but I do have this. There's the remnants of this. I've had it before for the show. Napoleon brandy.
Oh.
Pierre Duchesne. So there's a little bit in there. Gonna have that, and I have a latte too.
Oh, very nice. Good.
Keep me awake.
Yes, smart.
I went swimming late at about 10 p.m. last night.
What happened at 10 p.m.?
I went swimming because the fitness place it's slow at that time.
Nice.
So it's better for me to get my own lane. And I was going to say the rolls. Did you you were too young for Holy Spirit, right? Or did you go?
No, I went to Holy Spirit.
You went to
what
Holy
are you talking
Spirit?
about, Paul?
Oh yeah. Do you remember the rolls, the bread rolls?
No, I don't.
You don't remember the bread rolls they would make there? Those were so good.
Mm.
Yeah. And that roll that you had there looked like it. So how's your brandy?
It's good. Yeah.
Did Maurice do a good job?
Yeah, he did a great job. He brought me my favorite glass. Appreciate it very much. Next up is Smoke Signals, where we read letters from listeners, and we're just going to share a couple short ones today. Thank you, everyone who has written to us, and we apologize that we are very slow to reply.
Because Liz tells me at the last minute when we gets. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes. So the first smoke signal is from Ann Bartow. Hi, Liz and Paul. I was just checking in to see how you're doing. The fires look devastating, and I wondered how you and your families were coping. Thanks, Anne. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to ask. Yeah, we were okay. We were very worried and scared because there was ash not far. I mean, all over where we were at, but we were farther away from any of the strong craziness that was happening in Altadena. Luckily, but unfortunately, yeah, we do know lots of people who lost their homes, and it was pretty. Yeah, it was super devastating. But Liz, we went to stayed with Liz, put us up for a couple days because we didn't know how fast that thing was moving, what was going to happen, and then it was just it was hard to breathe. So
Yeah.
thank you for asking, Anne. Liz was in. You were fine, right, Liz? Because you're in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, we're fine. We're pretty far away. We're up northern California. So we were just happy to have Paul, you and your crew here for a little bit.
Yeah, we got to
Such a fun time for
sleep right by
us.
the where the recording happens.
That's right.
That was good. It was good to visit with you guys.
Yeah, but I'm really glad, Paul, that you guys didn't lose your home and or your school, like your kids' schools are all still standing, right?
Yes, one of our kids is the school was one of the last to reopen because a lot of places near there. But yeah, that fortunately, you know,
Mhm.
um,
That's good.
they're
Yeah,
good.
because you're really close. Pasadena is real close to Altadena, so it's a little scary. Okay, what's we got one more letter from a listener, and this is from Lisa, who wrote to say, as someone who has listened to the other Columbo podcasts, I so appreciate you're both bringing something unique to the table. Liz, your take on the decor and fashions is something I never appreciated before. Paul, I love your information about film and TV history. And Lisa goes on to write, I did appreciate George Hamilton as a Columbo villain. I grew up in the late 70s and 80s when the danger of tanning and not using sunscreen was just being talked about. George Hamilton seemed like such an anomaly to me as a kid. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
writing. Yeah, we just, our last episode that we released had starred George Hamilton, right? Deadly State of
Yeah.
Mind. Yeah, he's quite tan. All right, Paul, let's get into Forgotten Lady here. And I've got a little summary for us. An aging star murders her husband and tries to stage it as a suicide in order to finance her dream of starring on the stage again. A very clean pair of slippers and a comedy book puts Columbo hot on her trail. Dun dun dun. You know, Paul, I like to sometimes look up the title and see if it has any connection to some other, literature or film or whatever.
Yeah.
And I googled this. I didn't see anything except references to this episode of Columbo. But obviously, Forgotten Lady is the star, right? She was a star. She's been forgotten. But
Hmm.
also, it sort of connects to her forgetting. So
Yeah.
she's, the issue of her forgetfulness as well.
I like that title for that because you think about fame and someone who was famous during this time. A lot of people don't know. It's just the people who, like you and I, and the listeners who seek out older or different quality stuff that has survived in a way. It's like the Ozymandia poem,
I don't know
where
that.
it's a statue that's created for this great Greek leader, or something like that, and it's forgotten. No one knows who he was, when he was,
Mm,
but they created this monument. Who knows who made it? Slaves or what? But just the idea, just the film. In film, they if there's so many things that it's so hard to stay and get work. They want beauty, they
yeah,
want youth, they want.
right,
It's always these competing things. People don't want to see certain things, and Janet Leigh's an incredible career as
right.
her daughter as well, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Hmm.
But just that idea of like the Sunset Boulevard, Gloria Swanson. It's like these aging stars. I don't know. It reminds me of a lot of things. Just how she wants to stay in that limelight that is past, and it's interesting because she has these cognitive issues going on at the same time. So
Hmm.
it's sort of reflective. It's kind of like in Woody Allen's film he wrote and directed, Crimes and Misdemeanors. there's a ophthalmologist who, I don't want to spoil anything, but he does some pretty bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people he takes care of is his rabbi, and the rabbi is slowly going blind,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing that this person from his synagogue, I'm not sure how I think that's the connection between the two, is really bad news, but he doesn't
Yeah.
see that. And so the sort of like, obvious sort of parallel, but I do think that kind of stuff happens all around us, where something's not being taken care of, so something else is being destroyed at the same time that we're a
Mm-hmm.
part of, in a way, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like a parallel. Liz is like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, I think you can do
Oh,
that in
Paul.
film and literature, but I think in poetry and whatnot. But I think that they do that. That I think that's part of the idea of the forgotten lady. No one wants to. They've lost the heat. Like the
Yes.
actor loses the heat around them,
Yeah.
um, for all kinds of reasons. Like Tony Curtis, Janet's husband, when
Mm-hmm.
he when they got divorced, he left her for this girl who was 18. It was his
Oh,
co-star in a film in
yikes.
Argentina, and he was persona non grata with the public. So it was very hard for him to get work
Yeah.
because of those actions, and because of
Ah.
I don't know, but in his autobiography that I listened to, he's very explicit. He's kind of George is him and George. They don't hold anything back. I
George
guess
Hamilton.
yeah, I guess that's part of the selling point. Like some people want to hear the salacious stuff, I guess,
Yeah.
or at least the publisher wants you to publish that. Some of the publishers, I guess, it depends on who your publisher is and your audience. But he hits a lot of that stuff, and it's really kind of like sometimes it's really funny because he'll be like, I was really depressed when I was in Italy. Janet didn't want to join me, but I took some small comfort in the women I would meet at night.
Oh gosh. Wow.
Yeah. And I was like,
Just laying it all out there.
okay, Tony. Like, I like his honesty.
Right.
However, it's kind of funny because he really was depressed. But it's like, but anyway, we can go more into that if we want. What happens
Yes.
next, Liz?
Okay. All right. We haven't gone very far.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, focus. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I mentioned the title. Now let's get into the actual show. So the opening scene, we open up on a red carpet outside of a theater. There's a news broadcaster, and I have a note here, OMG, his suit. I will put a photo of his suit on our Instagram. It's black with like baby blue polka dots or tiny flowers or something. Very, very vintage. And the broadcaster was a real news broadcaster, this guy, in his real life, I believe. That's what IMDb said. So he's playing himself. And we meet the stars, Diamond and Wheeler. They both look very glamorous. Diamond is in a tuxedo. Wheeler is in a kind of like a white satiny, almost looks like a toga, but it's obviously not a toga. It's really pretty. And they get interviewed. And while the news broadcaster is interviewing them, we cut to a television set where the interview is being watched by Wheeler's husband, the little old man in a lovely bedroom with red carpet, blue floral wallpaper, dark wood four-poster bed with a bedspread that matches the wallpaper, and an elderly gentleman in bed holding a very old remote control. It's like a small metal box. So he's watching her, and in this moment, he learns and we learn that Wheeler is coming out of retirement and she's going to be doing her own show with singing and dancing again. And the elderly gentleman in bed is visibly surprised by this
Yeah.
news. Then we cut to Diamond and Wheeler in the car being chauffeured by Raymond back home after the premiere of the show that was at the theater. It was like an old show that they were replaying, or like a compilation show
Yeah, it
of
was like
other
That's
shows.
Entertainment. It was loosely inspired from
Mhm.
those movies that were made.
Yeah. So Wheeler is so excited. Nothing is going to hold her back. She's just like going on and on, talking really fast about putting on this show and how Diamond's going to be the choreographer and she wishes he could be the dancer and how she's going to finance it herself. And Diamond tries to like kind of calm her a little bit and, bring her back to reality a tiny bit. And she's like not having any of it. She's just ready to go, super excited, can't be stopped. And then they pull up to the Wheeler residence. So Diamond got dropped somewhere, I guess at his home or his car. They pull up at the Wheeler residence. So this was filmed at a real home in Pasadena, so not too far from you, Paul. And I believe you can still drive past it. It's 141 North Grand Avenue in Pasadena. And this address has actually been in several other shows, including a few episodes of Falcon Crest. And it looks like the home isn't super different today as it was in 1975. If you Google it, you can even find some photos of the interior from whenever it was on the market most recently. And it looks like there's a separate cottage at this address as well. So there's sort of the main mansion, and then there's a separate cottage. So Grace Wheeler arrives at home so happy. She asks for a brandy, which is the inspiration for our drink tonight. And her maid, Alma, who's dressed in a classic maid outfit, gets a brandy for Grace Wheeler, while Grace actually sneaks a pill out of a cabinet without anyone seeing that. Okay, and then Grace takes her brandy upstairs. This home has a really beautiful wooden staircase and sort of landing area that looks downstairs into the entrance. And as she walks past her husband's bedroom, she gives it this little glance, almost like it's either indifferent or maybe even bordering on like a little bit of disdain for her husband.
Yeah, I felt disdain.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like she looks at like down and like, him.
And so she walks right past his bedroom into her own. So obviously they have separate bedrooms, which, who knows if that was like a thing because she's a star and she wants her own room, or if that was because
it's just sleep, Liz. People just need to sleep. Some people don't need the TV on, like hint. I'm just kidding.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was just sleep. So anyhow, she arrives in her room, which has a very different vibe. It's a very like feminine decor and wallpaper. And she changes out of her red carpet outfit into something else. And meanwhile, at the same time, Raymond, the chauffeur, walks into the kitchen, says hello to Alma. And I think these two are supposed to be married, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
But he could easily
kind of
be her
age gap,
father or grandfather.
Well, they obviously care about each other.
They do.
They seem like a sweet couple.
Yes. But the age difference is really dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny how they're like, okay, you ready to watch our movie now? Our Carson show?
Yeah, the Carson show. So Raymond takes milk and a pill, the same pill, another pill, just like the one that Grace Wheeler stole. Raymond walks these upstairs to Henry, Grace's husband, the elderly gentleman in the bedroom, in bed. But there's a bit of a whoopsie in this scene, Paul. Did you notice it?
Yeah, it's the milk on the counter or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I did notice that, yeah.
Yeah, so Raymond arrives with the tray with the milk and the sleeping pill, knocks on the door, and Henry from bed says, "Come in, Raymond," and next to him is the milk and the sleeping pill already there.
Yeah, already there, yeah.
So I guess they must have been doing multiple takes and just lost track of that tray or something.
Yeah. It's like the way they cut it. They're like, well, it'd be better if he comes in. And it's funny because it's like they probably noticed it and then, like, well, we got to get it out there. I remember one of my film teachers at Alabama saw Goodfellas in the theater, and I was working at the movie theater that had it, and I'd seen it several times. And he was talking about how many snafus within the editing are in that film.
Oh, really?
I remember like a cigar one, yeah, but I don't remember much. I was kind of surprised at him saying that, but that's what he's pays close attention to film, much more than I was at that time for sure.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they didn't catch it, but it seems like they would have,
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Well, that's the only take we have." But I don't know. It seems pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
She's having fun when she comes up there.
Yes,
Janet Leigh.
when she comes into Henry's room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Grace has changed into her leisure wear and she has her brandy and she's really excited about the movie premiere and she's kind of going on and on about it with Henry. She asks Raymond to start a movie for her, Walking My Baby Back Home, which is an actual film that Janet Leigh, the actress, made. And then in this scene, she's sort of sharing her excitement with Henry and he says, I don't approve of this, Grace. He's not going to invest $500,000 in her Broadway show. And she says that his investment will double or triple. And I had to look this up. Do you have any guess how much Broadway shows earn in a season, Paul? Broadway shows in New York.
Now
Yeah, today's
or
money.
back then, 7 in a season, probably. Well, it gotta be millions, right?
More than millions.
Oh, it's got to make billion. It makes billions.
$1.3 billion in the
Or just
2023-2024 season.
so all the Broadway shows you're saying
Yeah, all the Broadway shows.
combined. I was just thinking of one, just like one.
Oh, okay, yes. So I was just doing like really simple, quick and dirty math. There's maybe 40 shows on Broadway on average in a year, give or take. So that's about $32 million per show. So
Okay, that's how much it makes per show.
makes per show.
Okay, yeah. So yeah.
And so to say a show in 1975 would earn $1 million, which is what Grace is saying,
Mm-hmm.
in today's money, like I think it'll earn $6 million. So this is a very reasonable kind of claim coming from
Mm-hmm.
Grace, assuming that her
Mm-hmm.
show didn't totally flop. But of course, we know that that's not why Henry is actually protesting what she wants to do, and we'll get to that. In this scene, Henry puts his foot down. He calls her Rosie, which is a name of one of her characters. She gets teary eyed.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, she does. Her eyes kind of tear up, and he walks out of the room for a minute, and this is when she sneaks that other pill into his milk.
Mm-hmm.
So her character, we know she is the murderer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at times, it's almost like she doesn't quite realize or recognize. She kind of goes back and forth between like cold and calculating and genuine. But maybe she was just acting in this moment with Henry too. I don't know.
In the David Canning's book, he mentions Peter Falk not wanting to have women in general as the murderers. Like he was
Hmm.
always trepidatious on doing that
Oh, interesting.
because they already I guess to him like there's already so many poor characters, development characters for females, and yeah, this one is very different. But yeah, I wondered that too. But I guess we'll get into it more in terms of what seems to be the problem in terms of
Yeah.
her going back and forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, she's really good. Like I never felt a false note that I could remember from her in this. Yeah, yeah, she's looking at her eyes are really red.
Yeah. She looks like she's going to cry in
Yeah.
this scene when he puts her foot down. So she puts the pill in his milk and then she heads downstairs to their movie room, their little screening room. The colors in the screening room are awesome. And I have a photo for our Instagram. So it's a bright green rug next to a bright purple sofa. So it's just like a really cool, like bright, interesting space that you're walking into. And she sits down on the purple sofa, starts watching the movie, starring herself, sipping her brandy, smoking her cigarette with her like long plastic cigarette holder. And then at some point during the film, she sneaks away to go get the gun out of the car, which is in the garage. This house, you can kind of see parts of it in this scene, and it feels like a real lived in house, which I imagine they have some of the actual owner's possessions up in here, perhaps, because it felt it didn't feel like some of the sets in some of the other, like the photos, framed photos, and the little statuettes, and the colors and the fabrics.
It felt it did feel confined, like in the kitchen, but that in a sense
Hmm.
would reflect in really being there. But
Yeah,
surely they spent some time shooting the studio, right?
probably. Yeah, but the
Yeah.
moment where she leaves and cuts across from the screening room, she kind of cuts across the living room to like an exterior door,
Oh, right, right.
a piano. It feels like that's probably the real house.
Yeah, and that because that also feels very close quarters, like
Hmm.
confined. Typically, when you see that, it's because they're really shooting in a
Yeah,
real space. It's easy sometimes to tell that too, like if it's a rented space. Yeah, the eye for detail for the set decorator and people is always big,
yeah,
or lack of. Like it's always like stands out in my mind because I'm always trying to see what looks real and what is that real.
yeah. Feels real.
Yeah, the garage.
Meanwhile, we see that Henry up in his bedroom has passed out. Alma and Raymond are in the kitchen watching Johnny Carson. There is a Le Creuset cameo, the orange pot. You know that brand, Paul? Le Creuset?
Yes, St. John loves that brand. And there's nothing in the
Still
pot.
very nothing in the pot, but we do see the rolls, the bread rolls in
Hmm.
this scene.
But it's like she looks at it and then she puts it back on for some reason.
Yeah, I think that she's like pretend cooking with the pot.
Yeah, that's. I think if the camera
That's the
wasn't there,
salmon.
yeah, if the camera wasn't there, we wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, yeah. So Grace has left and she comes back to the movie room just before a real change, just before Raymond comes in. And then as soon as Raymond does the real change and leaves, she strips down to this solid black outfit. It's like a leotard, leather gloves, black tights, like a ballerina ninja assassin vibe is what I'm getting from her.
St. John said she looked like I want to say cult figure, like in a cult, living in a cult with the big white thing.
Yes, totally. A cult leader. Yeah, and then when she takes it off, she's a ballerina ninja assassin.
I wanted to
So,
watch that movie, Walking My Baby.
oh yeah,
I,
could
I,
you
I
find
didn't
it?
see it anywhere. No, I didn't see it. They
Oh
didn't have it
yeah.
at Vidiots. They didn't have it at Videotech.
Oh,
They both of those places had some pretty good stuff. So she's in her ninja outfit, Liz. Then what happens?
she's in her ninja outfit. She slinks into Henry's room, locks his door from the inside. He's still passed out. She puts like a manila file folder on top of him and moves his book off to the side table, and then she kills him. So she shoots him in the head but has his hand pull the trigger. She looks uncomfortable in the moment, but she's still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of cut downstairs to the kitchen to see Alma and Raymond watching Johnny Carson.
You know who they're watching?
Yeah,
Who?
I looked her up. Did you?
I sure did. Yeah,
Oh, right, tell us, Paul.
Della Reese.
Yeah, tell us about Della Reese.
She's a singer. She's a very. She sang. I listened to one of her songs, but it's from the '50s. And then of course she actually hosted the Carson show.
Oh,
She hosted a lot of the episodes.
oh,
She
cool.
was so popular. And she had her own show for a while that was like a talk show kind of thing. And then she had maybe the next thing, one of the other big things she did,
No, I don't. Tell me. I didn't do it. I did really.
Touched by an Angel.
Oh, cool.
And she's in an episode with Janet Leigh.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah, I watched it. It was definitely like fun to watch. Janet Leigh is like her. She's estranged from her daughter. I forget who her daughter. Her daughter's a real well-known actress, but they're in Hollywood. They work in Hollywood. It was sweet. I liked it. It was it was very. Have you ever seen that show, Touched by an Angel?
I feel like I probably did, but a long time ago.
Okay. Well, what do you know about Della Reese?
Nothing. I just that she's a singer and an actor, and I thought she was really funny on the show.
Okay. On this show?
Yeah, like her little moments with Johnny Carson I thought were good.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that they're just sitting there. You think that's like mom and dad watching Columbo.
Yeah,
TV
totally.
trays.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
The couple's reactions is really good.
yeah, it feels real that they're but like laughing and looking at each other and enjoying Johnny.
That's Linda Gay Scott who plays Alma.
Oh, cool. What do you know about her?
She didn't do a ton of stuff. Well, I mean, she did. She did a lot of stuff, but it seems like she stopped in the 80s and then did something not too long ago. She was a voice in something called Reanimation Team. But have seen Westworld. I don't remember her role. It was a long time ago. I did watch Hammersmith is Out, which was this really strange, fun film with Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, Peter Ustinov. It's a comedy, like a dark comedy. She comes in the sort of second half of the film, but Elizabeth Taylor was awesome in that. Like I knew she was a good performer, but she was like in that one, man, she was really good. But it's kind of a strange, far out film. I think the ratings were okay, and I wanted to watch The Party. Did you? I've seen it before, but I have a copy of it. I didn't watch it. It's Blake Edwards with Peter Sellers. It's a clerical mistake results in a bumbling Indian film star being invited to an exclusive Hollywood party instead of being fired.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, Aunt Gabby loved this film. She's the one that told me about it, and so it was one of Peter Sellers and Blake Edwards' first pairing up together. But he's really funny. So she's in that also. And then she had a bigger part in this other movie, Little Faust and Big Halsey, with Robert Redford. The other, Sidney J. Furie is the director. I have the script to this, but Michael J. Pollard is the other actor in it. There's several. Lauren Hutton, Noah Barry Jr., Charles Eastman was the writer. That one looks interesting. That one was, I imagine, was popular when it came out.
Why didn't you watch it, Paul? What the heck?
Um, because you told me not to. You said to stop, Paul. Put that remote
Stop
down.
researching, Paul.
Pay
You gotta
attention to your
record.
kids. Okay.
Show must go on.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no,
Okay.
I really liked Linda Gay Scott. I thought she was really good in this.
Yeah. Does she always speak with an accent, or is that just the role in this
Good question.
Columbo?
I don't know. I got her confused with the Sergeant Lefkowitz in the
Uh-huh.
hallway. Who comes in
Yeah.
later. So I was getting those two mixed up when I was researching them, like a
Oh,
dummy, like
okay.
not paying attention to their
Oh,
name.
Paul. Mhm.
So I didn't get to follow up on Linda.
All right, so back to the Wheeler residence. Grace has just murdered her poor sleeping husband in his bed, and then she goes off the balcony down the branches and trunk of a tree
Like a ninja,
like a
like
ninja. So I'm telling
Shokasugi.
you. And she hurries back into the screening room, the little mini theater, sees that the film has broken. So there's nothing showing on the screen. It's just spinning around in circles. And she does a really quick repair right before Raymond comes in for a real change. And then as soon as Raymond leaves, she burns the little segment of the film that had broken off or that she had to remove, basically.
Yeah, she is all in on this deception and murder.
Yeah. And then, so once the film is over, I actually left this out of my notes, but I think I remember what happens next. The film is over. She tells Raymond to go check on Henry, Dr. Willis, and she starts getting ready for bed. And she hears Henry trying to get into the bedroom. And then the two of them force their way into the bedroom and they find Henry dead. And she looks kind of confused in her bedroom when Raymond is knocking on the door. She's
Hmm.
kind of, this is another one of those moments where
Yeah,
it's hard to know, like, does she really not know? Has she forgotten? Or is she pretending to forget? Is she playing the role here? Rather not pretending to forget, but is she playing the part or does she really not know?
Yeah, that's it's a good question because I wonder if she as the performer just was behaving as if she knew, but she doesn't. So she's such a great performer that it looks
Hmm.
like the character doesn't really know,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't have that extra layer of deception spilling out. But she's not exactly a cold-blooded killer who could hide that,
Yeah.
like a really
Yeah.
bad person could. But
Right.
I wonder if she thought about that when she was performing. Did you ever see Psycho?
Yes, I did. It's been a while though, but yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that not too long ago, and I didn't know that was her in it, but I loved her in that. Like I was like, she was so good. She got nominated for that. But her, like, I love the character too. She's like this person who's stealing from her boss, and then she goes to the hotel to meet with her boyfriend, I think. But I was really impressed with like, it's being an older movie and just like the character. I was just like, wow, like she's good. And then since we doing this episode, I watched new stuff that I hadn't seen with her. But I wonder, yeah, that's a good question. I wonder if Jamie Lee would know. Her daughter. Her daughter is so. Have you seen? I saw David Gordon Green did one of the new Halloween movies, like the Michael
Yeah.
Myers, the horror.
Hmm.
And there's a scene. I think it was Halloween Ends. I can't remember, but there's the scene with Jamie Lee Curtis where she goes to sit down at the dinner table with her family, or she's there at a restaurant, and she like this explosion of emotion comes out of her. And she recently did The Bear too, and I think this was before The Bear, but she was so good in that scene in Halloween. I was blown away. I was like, man. And then St. John had told me about how good she was in The Bear. I know I'm sort of getting off track, but um,
Hmm. That's okay.
I
That's why
do
we're
know they were close. Yeah, I do.
wandering with
Yeah,
Columbo.
they were close. That her she had two daughters. Janet did, and Tony was not around much at all.
Yeah.
And I think Jamie Lee Curtis did say that on Phil Donahue when her and Janet were on there once. And then I saw The Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson. She's nominated for the SAG Awards. She's nominated for other stuff too. And Jamie Lee's in that. Jamie Lee Curtis. Pamela I thought was great, and Jamie Lee Curtis I thought was really good too. She plays this other kind of very different kind of wonderful role. She might be able to answer that question, Liz. That's my hope.
Yeah. We better get her on the podcast, Paul. I'll send her a DM.
Okay.
I'm sure she'll reply.
I have one question for you, Jamie.
We want to talk about your mother. Who was the Janet's other daughter?
I knew you were going
Is
to
she a
ask me that.
performer too? You knew
I
I would.
don't
Oh,
think so. I read her.
oh, cool.
There really was a Hollywood. I enjoyed it.
That's her autobiography.
Yeah, she puts herself in her real name. Like she talks about in the third person at times. When she came to Hollywood, her genuine behavior, like she can't believe this is happening to her, like this sort of getting an audition. Her parents had her picture sitting out, or they showed it to a very famous actress, Norma Shearer. The way she got into Hollywood is really remarkable. A lot of times, as actors, you didn't necessarily have to be a good actor in the beginning, but they would put you on trial and they would give you acting
Yeah.
teachers to see how well you could do. Maybe they do some of that now. So it's very interesting how you might meet a huge person at MGM based on a picture.
Yeah. That's so crazy.
She got her first movie job was in Santa Cruz.
What?
Yeah, they filmed it there. You can watch it on Internet Archive. It's a black and white old film. Oh, yeah, Van Johnson. That's it. It's The Romance of Rosie Ridge.
Okay.
That's the one they shot in Santa Cruz. Yeah, with Van Johnson. She became good friends with him. But you can watch that on Internet Archive. When they told her, she auditioned. That was like one of the first auditions she had was to audition for that film. They said you got the part, and she couldn't believe it. Right, so all this stuff kept happening to her. That she got to go into the studio, that she got to meet these people, and then she gets this film, and then they say we're going to be filming in Santa Cruz, so would that be okay? And then she started bawling because she's like, she thought she would have to pay for her hotel and have to pay for the transportation, so she wouldn't be able to go there. So she started crying, but she really believed that she was, because she didn't know anything about
Yeah.
like how they make a film or any of that stuff. And they all started crying with her when they found out what she was crying about because they were so happy for her.
Aw.
And so when she says, there really was a Hollywood, I feel like she seems so genuine. Jamie Lee Curtis, I think she's in the preface of that. She says, as she's been making films, she's met some over the years, she'd met older crew people who'd worked with her mom, and they would tell her, your mom was one of the few people who was always just, very kind and
Oh, cool.
genuine and, like
Yeah.
good stuff, and just, how you want to treat people. So anyway, yeah, I started to watch the film. It was pretty good. Maybe I watched like 40 minutes of it or something.
Romance of Rosie Ridge.
Yeah.
Is that referenced? Is that like a musical one that's where she plays Rosie and that's where the Rosie name comes from in
Oh,
this?
I didn't even think of that. No, no, this one is like it's post Civil War. Missouri friends, relatives, neighbors find it difficult to live harmoniously together, knowing that some of them fought on opposing sides during the war. That's right. So they're like, she falls in love with Van, who's like fought for the North or the South. I can't remember. So, but the acting was really good. Like Thomas Mitchell, very well known actor. He's great to watch him. So yeah, it was kind of like just sort of like a drama with sort of family humor. Yeah, it was cool what I saw. It's all on location in your neck of the woods. It's funny. I wonder if you could find out where that is, like if you've been in that area and what it looks like now, because that was
Long time
1947.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. 80 years ago. Might be pretty different now.
When did your husband's family move out there?
They came here in the 80s.
In the 80s. Okay.
Yeah, 1980s. Actually, no, I take that back. His grandmother moved out here in the, oh goodness, I'm going to mess this up, but before the 80s, maybe in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
All right, Paul, should we get back to this plot? Where are we? Okay, so Peter Falk shows up and he is more disheveled than usual. I guess it's very late at night. He was woken up. He rings the bell, says hello to Alma, who's clearly upset, and then he asks her to make him some coffee or bring him some coffee. And he realizes he forgot several things. He forgot his watch, he forgot his coat, forgot his badge, and he's waiting for the coffee in the lobby, and he's like leaning against the wall and starts to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Alma comes back with his coffee. He's very grateful. He heads upstairs with it, and she asks him to please be careful.
Yeah.
He's going to slosh that coffee all over their fancy
Yeah.
floors if he's not careful. So now he enters the crime scene, which is Henry's bedroom. There's a ton of cops in there. Raymond, the butler, is in there as well, looking on at everyone. We learn a little bit like the door had to be broken down to get into the room. Columbo sees the medical chart. He sees the comedy book. He goes to Raymond to learn more about the timeline of the night. And Raymond, Columbo has no pencil, no paper, nothing. So Raymond loans him his pen, his notebook, and gives Columbo the timeline of everything that happened. And Columbo's trying to make sense of a suicide. He asks Raymond, was he down in the dumps, depressed? Raymond does not, says no. He was looking forward to a big trip he and his wife were going to take. Then Columbo goes back to the body and they're removing the gun from his hand. And one of the cops says he must have killed himself because he had what's called a cadaveric spasm, where his hand kind of like locked in its shape of pulling the trigger in the moment of death. I had to Google that. Is this a real thing? It sounds like it might be a real thing that rarely, very rarely happens, where in the moment of death, your muscles get frozen in a certain position, but not super common. So it's kind of lucky for for her that happened. For, it kind of helps her out that happened to occur. And Columbo checks out the slippers, Henry's slippers, which have only ever walked on carpet, learns that the gun is usually in the car, which is outside in the garage and not brought into the house. And then he also checks in with the doctor, like, what's the deal with these medical records? Was this really bad? Is this really devastating news? And the doctor says that it's not really that big a deal. And then Columbo starts to tell him, like, I have these pains in my own heart. Can you help me out here? Starts talking about his own health conditions. I just took a bite of my bread roll. Sorry, Paul.
Oh, that's okay. How is it?
It's delicious.
I know I had some garlic butter I was going to put on my roll, but
oh, Paul, I'm so sorry. Missing out on all the fun here.
Well, I should have some of the Napoleon.
Yeah, Dynamite. Try a little sip of your brandy.
And look at these. These are green, pretty glasses. St. John.
Better take a photo of those, Paul.
Okay, but it matches the green.
Oh yeah. Bottle. Very nice. Paul's showing me his glassware, and we'll have a photo on our Instagram. Make sure you check that out.
The company that makes those glasses, I don't remember the name, but there's a restaurant at the car museum across from LACMA and the Academy Museum. They serve similar glasses from the same company, but theirs are gray. They're actually very different from this, but St. John was so impressed with these.
Oh.
Anyway, I know that's got. Sorry. Hey, what are we talking about, Liz?
No, I have no idea.
The doctor. There's the doctor.
Where are we? Okay. All right. So we're done with the nighttime crime scene. Now we're at the house the next morning. Ned Diamond comes by to comfort Grace Wheeler, his old partner in movies and current partner in producing her next show. And I don't know, you probably noticed the music, Paul, but the music in this episode feels pretty different.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah, me too. And I totally reminds me that we're in, like, maybe we're in some old timey, like, black and white movie, with this sort of like a little bit, like, I'm not great at describing music, but it's a little bit like romantic and nostalgic and kind of slow orchestra style music. I don't know. How would you describe the music, Paul? You're probably better at descriptors.
Jeff Alexander is the composer. He was like in the music department for Singing in the Rain. His last film or his last composition on IMDb is More Wild Wild West. Yeah, I just remembered it was different. It stood out. But yeah, he definitely was composing in the 40s and the 50s. I hadn't thought about it other than I remember really appreciating it.
Yeah, in my head, this is the story that I made up. The composer wants us to kind of feel like we're back in one of those old-timey musical movies, but I think that's just what I made up in my head, and it's just that they used a different composer.
Yeah, like when the guy pulls up in the big car, the friend, that music there definitely kind of stands out in a dated kind of way for that time period.
Right.
So that is a little unusual.
Yeah.
Because that's 1975, and he only composed one Columbo. Yeah.
So maybe I'm right. So what you're saying is that maybe my insight is absolutely on point.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. So Diamond arrives, and Grace Wheeler is sitting up in her bed, looking pretty despondent. We have another feathery robe. I want to point out this is a nice, lovely white one. We're gonna have to once again share photos of feathery nighttime robes on our Instagram.
Can you tell the listeners how you've been able to do things now with that?
What? Oh,
getting images?
Yes. Oh my gosh, something happened on my computer, and I can finally take screenshots of Columbo all by myself. I don't need to tell Paul. I know, it's so exciting.
We could have a clapping track there.
Yes. Very exciting. I got to take a screenshot of another feathery robe. And so Ned sits with her and he's, comforting her and says we can postpone the show, give you some time off. And Grace says, no, postpone? What did Rosie do the night her father died? And this is where Ned looks a little bit confused and says, but Grace, Rosie was a character in a film. And he asks her, are you all right? And she says, as long as I keep busy. So he's, we're starting to see more of these little cracks in Grace Wheeler's character here, how she's doing. And then Columbo pulls up and he's got Dog in the car. And Raymond is not happy to see Columbo at the house. Columbo wants to speak with Mrs. Willis because he couldn't speak with her the night of the murder. She was too upset. Raymond gives him an ashtray for him to carry around the house. I love that. And Ned Diamond comes down the stairs to make a phone call, and Columbo recognizes him. He's kind of staring at him.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. He doesn't quite know who he is, but he knows he's from the movies. And then Ned gives him his autograph, and then Columbo, it clicks. Oh!
He was a big musical performer.
Oh, yeah?
His first movies were musicals, and he did a lot of film noir films also. He did The Razor's Edge. I think I saw that one from 46. Miracle on 34th Street, I think they said was his favorite. I saw one of the films, Kansas City Confidential, was like a film noir, and it was pretty good. The only thing that kind of pulled me back a little bit was the sets, because it's like this one resort set that they use is really kind of not great.
Yeah.
But the director, Phil Carlson, worked with him several times.
What's his real name?
The actor is John Payne.
John Payne, right.
I really want to see 99 River Street is another film noir film he did. But the Kansas City Confidential was cool. It was fun. Acting was good. Some really great actors in that. It was weird. In this one cool book I have, bear with me.
Okay. Paul's retrieving one cool book he has.
It's called the Illustrated Who's Who of the Cinema.
Uh-huh.
It's a Macmillan Publishing, New York. The images they use for the actors is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love these photographs. But they have one on John Payne.
Oh, cool.
And what they say about John Payne, he never made anything like... they kind of put him down like it's not very long. They said he returned for a few films in the 60s. Payne's was a career that never really led to anything worthwhile.
Oh, ouch.
And ironically, yeah, his very first film, Dodsworth, may well be the only one that endures. That's just like that. I mean, these are lovers of cinema, but I don't know. It's just, I think it's not right. Like,
yeah,
I don't think it's that accurate. Because
clearly they were ignoring this episode of Columbo. I mean, come on.
Yeah, But what I saw, I thought Kansas City Confidential was cool. Like he was the lead of that.
Yeah.
And the other actors he's up against with that are excellent. And if you just look at he's done. I guess that's the thing with like B movies or even C movies, because we can get into the Sergeant Lefkowitz. She did like C type films, and some of them are pretty cool. In my little opinion.
Okay,
so.
I can't wait to hear. I didn't even know that there was a level C.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say C.
You said it.
I apologize for that.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I mean, I don't know. It's like apples and oranges and beef jerky. Like it's like different. or seaweed. Like they're.
Okay.
They're very different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can consume with the eyes and head and heart.
All right. Well, you're going to have to explain this seaweed, apple, orange metaphor when we get there. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's keep going here. Columbo has met Ned Diamond, and he's so funny. I kind of wonder, like, if Peter Falk was pulling on any of his own real life experience with fans or like semi fans. Columbo says, my wife dragged me to every film you were ever in. And Ned Diamond, he's got a good attitude about it. He's like, oh, I'm sorry you had to be dragged, but he's like smiling.
Yeah, I like that, his response.
Yeah, he does a good job. And then he explains why he's there. He says, oh, there's just a couple loose ends to the death that I have to tie up. He also asks Ned for dance advice, and Ned says, become a critic. Because Columbo says he's like, he really struggles. He's got 2 left feet. He says, become a critic.
He's basically saying, leave me alone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he's shutting it all. He's trying to shut it all down. And so Columbo goes upstairs to finally meet Mrs. Willis, because she never changed her name. Or maybe she did. But anyhow, her stage name or her famous name is Grace Wheeler. He goes into her room and he realizes, like, oh my gosh, you're Grace Wheeler. And he seems genuinely starstruck and like he's blushing a little bit, asks her a ton of questions, and she takes them all in stride. She doesn't really show any signs of being upset at all in this scene. She thinks that suicide for her husband makes sense, and she tries to address some of Columbo's concerns. She also has trouble remembering Columbo's name.
Here I feel like she is playing like she kind of knows, what she did. I felt like. Did you not get any of that?
It was hard to tell, but she definitely didn't seem very upset about his death here.
Right.
But then again, I mean, if they were in a loveless marriage, then maybe this would have been her reaction if he had actually killed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, because she's not like having the quick answer, like defensive, like a lot of the bad guys always mess up their case by being so, like George Hamilton, overly zealous with their answers or
their explanations. They've got an explanation for everything.
Mm-hmm. Like Jack Cassidy always has those, great responses.
Mm-hmm. Like which one, Paul? What do you remember?
Which Jack Cassidy?
Yeah, which Jack Cassidy comeback are you thinking of?
Oh, I just always felt like, remember, wasn't he like appearing out of nowhere and being like, oh, I think I have an answer for you for that. That, like doesn't he like follow him around in one of them?
I can't remember.
Or maybe not. Yeah.
Anyhow, he asks her if they can look in Henry's room, and Columbo's just wondering, is there any way that anyone else could have, come into his room and murdered him and locked the door and left via the balcony? And they look at it, and she's like, no, it's not possible. We trimmed these branches back to prevent that kind of thing from happening. And then Raymond comes and tells her that her vocal teacher is there, and she's forgotten that it's Friday. And she asks Columbo if he thinks it's insensitive that she keeps working. He's pretty kind, and she invites him and his wife to come over sometime, because he tells her in the beginning, like, oh, my wife and I were such big fans of your work. All right, Paul, we ready to go to the hospital?
I guess. Yes, let's go.
Let's go. So Columbo heads next to the hospital to see the doctor who was the one who wrote up the diagnosis that Henry was looking at the night he died. Because I believe the doctor that checked on Grace was different than the doctor who wrote up the diagnosis and recommended prostate surgery for Henry. So Columbo goes to him and wants to just get an understanding of, how serious was this diagnosis that he received. And the doctor says it really wasn't something to get depressed about. It's a very highly successful operation. Henry was reluctant to get the surgery, and he wanted to do antibiotics first. And did you recognize the floors here, Paul?
Yeah, it's from the last episode, right?
Yeah.
From the Deadly State of Mind.
Totally. So these floors have the same different colored markings or lines drawn onto the floor, just like in Deadly State of Mind. And this is where we see Sergeant Lefkowitz, correct?
Mm-hmm.
She has found him at the hospital and says that the department records show he hasn't been to a shooting range in 5 years, and he really needs to go and get that done. So, Paul, let's hear about this person. Tell us what is the C movie? First of all.
No, she was in Family Man with Nicolas Cage. That's an A-list movie.
Okay.
But if you look at her IMDb, she's in one called The Doll Squad, where she plays Sabrina Kincaid, and it came out in 1973. But yeah, I didn't realize I had the movie. So
what?
this
You
is
have the Doll Squad?
I have the Doll Squad. Yes, a friend who used to work in the industry, I mentioned before, he just recently retired because it's like Detroit out here. He said, what the cars were for Detroit. But this is made by Ted V. Mickles.
Okay.
As a filmmaker. So it's like Charlie's Angels before there was a Charlie's Angels.
Oh.
So this guy shot and directed and edited and probably, I don't know if he did the music for this one, but he did all kinds of crazy movies. And that one was really fun. And so Francine is like the head of these Charlie's Angels who needs to stop these bad guys from taking over the world. Mm-hmm. But our dear Stephanie, our brother's wife, she gave me this book a long time ago, and I love this book.
Incredibly Strange Films is the
title. The company is Research. They published a lot of cool, interesting books in the 80s. Val and Andrea Juno, and a bunch of other editors like Jim Morton, Boyd Rice, Francisco de Olivier Matos. But there's a chapter on that director, the Nichols.
Oh.
And it's wonderful. He did like Astro Zombies, The Corpse Grinders. Maybe I shouldn't show images from these things.
Yeah, that sounds kind of crazy.
But he was making films just recently, like wherever he could get people to help him fund his films if he didn't fund it himself. So yeah, no, it was cool that she was in that. And I think she did a couple of films with him, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, she was in Astro Zombies M3 Cloned. But she was also in The Mindy Project, which is a kind of...
Who is she in The Mindy Project? I like that show.
She was in one episode.
Oh, okay.
And I think it said like Upper East Side Woman. So... Oh, you know what? She was in. I wondered how well she knew Jerry Lewis, because she did stuff with Jerry Lewis.
Oh, cool.
Like Cracking Up. She played Marie Dubois. With like Cracking Up is like. Have you ever seen the Jerry Lewis movie?
No.
Mm-mm. So he was he's a writer, director, performer.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful, controlling, funny. All kinds of things under the sun with Jerry Lewis. He was good friends with Janet Leigh. He's probably the best man at their wedding.
Oh, wow.
I think one of the best. Maybe Dean Martin was. I can't remember. But Cracking Up, she's with Jerry Lewis. That was actually, I really enjoyed that film. I'd never really seen Jerry Lewis's work. Janet Leigh did a couple films, or one film, and was on his TV show. But he's very slapsticky, and like, how much can I get out of this prop?
Yeah.
Or that movie Cracking Up, which came out in '83. Had a sense that could be dated for a lot of people. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so funny. And he has this one scene with Francine where it's like set in medieval times, and Francine is like in this carriage, and he's trying, I think he was the carriage driver, but it was silly, but funny. And then she might have done the show too that he did. Anyway, yeah, so she passed away in 2017. But if you look at her body of work, you'll see a huge range. She was in Days of Our Lives, several episodes of that.
Oh, I used to love that show.
You used to watch that?
Yeah, in high school.
Oh, how did you watch it? Like, wasn't it during the day?
Yeah, I watched it in the summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was...
What did you like about it?
I don't know. I just got sucked in. There was the evil Stefano. There was... oh, gosh, I'm not going to remember all the characters.
Evil Stefano? Who was that?
Classic romance between Bo and someone listening right now is probably remembering, and
they're like, that's Dallas, you idiot.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Anyhow, yes, I used to like that soap. This was back in the day before we could watch whatever we wanted at any time, so there weren't a whole lot of options in the summer.
What was the first thing you binged? Like you could watch more than one episode?
When things started streaming?
Before that, on DVDs, you could get like a whole
Oh.
season.
Well, Columbo was one of my first DVDs that I bought.
So that was probably your first time where you were able to watch more than one episode at once. Did you do that with Columbo? When you had the DVDs?
No, I mean, I wouldn't watch them like multiple at a time because they're long. And then The Office. Also The Office. I also got that. It was like one of my first
Those are short though, right? 30 minutes or something?
Yeah, they're 22 minutes. So that one you could binge.
Yeah, I did like a mini series. It was like it was when we moved out here to LA like 2003, Videotech was not where it's at now, and Mark at Videotech had TV series section. He still does. And it was like I remember getting the Jamie Kennedy Experiment. You could watch all of season 1 or 2. And
nice.
Yeah, I love that. It's so silly. Some of his stuff was great though, but
super silly.
It was great to like have that whole. You could watch the whole. It was like like going crazy. You could just sit
totally
all day.
Wow.
I did that.
Crazy.
I loved doing that when I was sick. When I would be sick, and I would go to Hollywood Video, maybe or Videotech. I would get Hollywood Video. I would get like Stephen King TV movies, and then
scary.
Yeah, but those are fun. What was I was thinking of something else. It was like this UFO thing with Dakota Fanning, where she narrated like these generations of family that were affected by aliens. I should say, not UFOs. So that people always assume that it's exactly the same thing when if it's identified, it could be you don't know what it is. Doesn't mean there's any alien driving it.
Right, Paul. This is not an alien podcast. All right, you got to bring it back around.
No.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
You're confusing me now. You and the brandy are confusing me now. French coat, cigar, là toujours. Colombo, au mon Colombo, pas de gun, pas de look, what a look. Colombo, French coat, cigar, là toujours. Colombo, au mon Colombo, pas de gun, pas de look, what a look. Passion meurtrière, folie passagère, rien à foutre devant l'expertise policière. So she played Lorraine Farr Temple.
Yes, back to Sergeant Lifkowitz.
Yeah, in Days of Our Lives, and that was 1978. So you didn't.
Oh, that was before my time.
Yeah, you were watching it. What year were you watching that? Was that?
I was watching it in the 90s, early 90s.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay, so
when I was just a wee lass in El Paso, Texas.
Well, she was in Where the Bears Are. It says, a comedy mystery web series that follows the exploits of 3 gay bear roommates living together in Los Angeles as they attempt to solve the murder of a party guest that turned up dead.
Uh-oh.
So she was in that. That was 2016. So not very long ago.
And then she just passed in 2017. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like her last thing?
No. 10 Violent Women Part 2 was her last thing. So
I have to say,
guess who directed it? Guess who directed it?
Mitchell, the guy you were talking about earlier.
Ed V. Mickles.
Mickles, yeah, I mean, yes.
When 2 athletic girls are forced to become drug mules and are then murdered by the mob, their girlfriends from the gym unite to avenge their deaths. It's got 7 out of 10, Liz.
Oh, so not that is a C. That's a solid C.
Okay, so that's shot on video. I think I would probably prefer his ones that are shot on. I think he did 16 millimeter. He talks about it in the Incredible Strange Films book. So, but that's so cool, right? Like I forgot. There you go. He did it. She stayed doing films with him.
Amazing. I feel like that was going to be one of my true false trivia questions at the end, and now it's out there. Ha ha.
Okay, fine. I got to scratch that off.
It's a very
okay. Can we get back
to specific random thing? Yeah, back to the show. But can I just say, I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but I felt like she her coming up to Columbo kind of confrontation, it felt a little bit stiff.
Yeah.
Personally, maybe this was like maybe he was intimidating, or I don't know, but it wasn't super believable to me.
Yeah, because she stays looking at the photograph as opposed to just being down to business. Like she's got her man. Just you need to come down, dude.
Yeah, she didn't know what to do. I feel like we've talked about this before. Like, what are you doing in this scene? Like, what are your hands doing? What are you busy with? What's your like activity? Have we talked about that?
Are
Maybe I'm
you in a
talking about.
rush? Probably, yeah. I mean, that was one of my Gene Hammond's, one of my acting teachers. I have had a few. Yeah, so, at least three of those teachers were always like, "Where are you going? What's your next?"
Hmm.
Like, are you in a rush? Do you have to be somewhere?
Hmm.
What's your day looking like at that moment? Needs
Yeah.
to be within that to a degree. I mean, there's so many different pieces.
Right.
Into what you can incorporate into the moment and the scene. And yeah, just looking at it, yeah, I could see. I think I kind of see what you're saying. Like she slows down a little bit, but he's such a smart actor. He's gonna help her out, you know.
Hmm.
And it looks like that's what he does because he kind of looks over and
Yeah.
and he never breaks. Like and if you don't break, you're forcing them to react to the reality that you're in. Like I was reading, Tony Curtis said that he did the Houdini film with Janet Leigh. I watched that. That was fun. That was interesting.
Or does he play Houdini?
Yeah, he plays Houdini,
Oh,
and
cool.
Janet, plays his wife. But in the film, there's a time where they had to tie him submerge him in water with handcuffs and stuff. Was it
Yikes.
that? It was one of these. It may have not been that film, but it was one of these films where he had something like that, and I think it was that one. But his reaction was visceral because he called upon something he had and he was feeling in the moment of the real terror, that position he was in. And the prop guys who built the thing that he was in, it wasn't underwater because how would they hear him? Because he was
Hmm.
shouting like the pain that he was in.
Yeah.
They broke the container, whatever he was in, because they thought he was really hurt.
Oh, wow.
But he was just acting.
Yeah.
And it was like if that's what you want to do anyway, like, so it was interesting that at that, whether I don't know if this is the 50s or 60s, that they didn't realize he's just acting, like they really,
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to do in front of the camera when they start rolling, is to
Right.
make it seem as real as you can. But I've had that. I've seen that and read about that where people are really in it, and you can sense, like I had a tough time sometimes trying to get into a scene, and when I see someone just not, like someone actually 100% in the thing, I'm just like, it's always so great to see that, like, wow,
Yeah.
they're bringing it. I'm not right now, but dang, this is so good. It's fun when you feel that, when you see that. So Francine York, yeah, I didn't think about it too much. I liked her.
Yeah. I probably should give her another chance, but my quick response is like, not totally buying her here.
Yeah, she's not as natural.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
There's a little.
But that could be a choice she made because there are not very many female officers at the time. So they might have, like part of her choice might be, if I were a female cop, I would have this extra layer of formality, or I don't know what, anyhow, maybe that was on purpose, is what I'm trying to say. I was going to move us on to the bookstore. So Columbo is trying to learn more about this novel that Dr. Willis was reading the night that he killed himself. It is the pretend title is The Transformation of Mrs. McTwig. It's a prop book, but the storyline, this is according to IMDb trivia. Thank you, whoever put this up there. The storyline is similar to a novel called Mrs. Eris Goes to Paris, which is like a comedy kind of story. And so Columbo learns at the bookstore that this is a really funny book, very silly. And so this is another loose end, right? So it's still not resolved, this loose end. Like someone who's going to commit suicide, why are they reading a comedy book?
Did you look up the bookstore? It looks like a real bookstore.
No, I didn't. I don't think it's in, if I recall, yeah, no, it's not in the locations map on IMDb or Columbo file. So yeah, it did look very real though. I also spent a ton of time looking for our next location, which is the dance studio, which has these very distinctive windows. They're like giant diamonds, like bleh. The brandy is it's getting to
Liz.
my speech. Okay, I'm fine. The windows are these giant elongated diamonds, like black and red diamond glass, whatever. Anyhow,
Yeah.
I could not find this building anywhere, and I'm guessing that it no longer exists, or I feel like it would have been kind of difficult to add those diamonds as like set decoration on a real building, but maybe because
Mm-hmm.
it's Ned Diamond Studio and there's these huge diamonds. And this looks like a real building on a real street in Los Angeles. I've got some photos. I'll put them on our Instagram. And if anyone knows where this was filmed, I would love to know. So that's just the exterior shot. And I'm sure the interior shot was filmed on a studio. But we go into the dance studio, Ned Diamond's dance studio, and Janet Leigh, Grace Wheeler, is pretty amazing on the dance floor. She's doing these crazy stunts where they like lift her up in the air and then she falls backwards like into their arms. I was very impressed. Columbo shows up and he wants to chat with her about what Henry was reading before he died. This is another one of those moments where you're not totally sure where her mind is, but she comes across as very genuinely disturbed by all of this. I believe this is the moment where Grace says, I think that maybe I can see something that you can't see. And that is if Henry didn't kill himself, who would want to murder him? And she seems so genuine in this moment. And I think,
Yeah, this is where, yeah.
maybe Columbo also is like, oh my gosh, this lady doesn't know what she's done.
Yeah. And her reaction too, I love her performance here. Is she's like, what does she say? Like, can you please stop playing when I'm talking or something?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's like she's not even I have a feeling like she's not doing the thing right, the dance moves right,
Mm-hmm.
even though she's getting frustrated.
Yeah.
So that would go
Yeah.
along with the issue she's having.
Right. Right.
Which is what is the terminology for what she's having this?
You're asking me to skip ahead, Paul.
Oh, sorry. Okay, that's not okay. Keep going.
But
Keep going. Okay,
I
the Columbo
can
comes
skip
in.
ahead. I
No.
can
That's
skip ahead.
okay. So,
All
but
right.
yeah,
I'm not.
her reaction to Columbo, yeah, this is where also I really thought like, yeah, she doesn't remember.
Yes,
Like you feel like she's being genuine with him.
totally. She feels genuine in
What
this
are you
moment.
talking? Because she gets real sad. Like it's almost like she forgot what he's dead. She has this
Mhm.
look in her eyes, like what he died when he opens the book up and stuff, and he says
Yeah.
she has this really strange look in her face, like what happened?
Yeah. I did want to point out that her workout outfit is pretty cool. It's like a dressy blouse and slacks and a silky headband. I mean, I don't think anyone works out in as fancy clothes as she did here. It's very nice.
You don't do that in Santa Cruz at the gym you go to or the Y you go to
No, tennis club.
tennis
The
club.
tennis club, everyone just wears leisure
Maybe
wear.
maybe you should get that going, Liz.
That would be quite a sight. So let's move on from the dance studio. Columbo leaves the studio, goes to his car, and there's a cop waiting in his car for him. So this is another detective or officer or whatever, not Francine, not Sergeant Lefkowitz. This cop says that he needs to go pass his shooting test. Columbo promises that he will. This was a funny little plot addition, and I kind of wonder, like, did they not have enough story that they had to add in? So I mean, obviously they filmed these scenes. It feels like they filmed these scenes, in line with the general production, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
this was William Driscoll or
Uh-huh.
Bill Driscoll is it? labeled for this one. He wrote 3 Columbos. One of them was the one on the boat, Troubled Waters.
Oh yes, the cruise. Yeah.
The Ben Gazzara, and then he did Identity Crisis. Did you like Identity Crisis? I don't remember this
Eh,
one.
I mean, it's not one of my favorites, but I
Okay,
am
okay,
excited to rewatch it and analyze it with a little more thought.
okay. But yeah, Troubled Waters was great, and this one to me is great in a sense of it's unique for a lot of reasons.
Hmm.
So he's a producer too. Oh, here we go. He did the later ones. He did Murder in Malibu, Uneasy Lies the Crown, Rest in Peace, Mrs. Columbo. He was a creative consultant. Oh wait, story consultant for all of season 5 and 6. All right, Liz. So where are we at?
I was just questioning this little B storyline. It is kind of fun because it's another reminder that Columbo is such a different kind of cop, that he doesn't even have a gun on him. He hasn't practiced shooting in forever. But I kind of felt like that maybe there could have been a more interesting B storyline, or maybe it could have played out in a more interesting way. I don't know.
Yeah, I liked the story. I liked that side story a lot. I think it adds to it. I would say maybe it's Harvey Hart, the director.
Hmm.
Maybe because everybody's kind of serious, and Columbo is great because he seems so believable that his reactions to, oh, really, I got to do it. They're like, yeah, you got to come in and do it. But if they don't, there's no play to the scene. There's no like fun in the scene.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity to have. He directed 4 episodes by Dawn's Early Light, which is kind of serious, A Deadly State of
Yeah.
Mind,
Totally serious.
and then Now You See Him.
Oh, which I love that one.
Plus Forgotten Lady. I guess it's a bit of the writing and a bit of the directing, and when
Yeah.
you're moving as fast as they do, it's amazing that they get because there's no rehearsal. Like
Right, right,
we've talked
right.
about all this stuff. I
Yeah.
don't think so. All these actors, they have to come up with something. They have to come up with how I'm going to behave. Like Francine York with the looking at the picture. It looks
Right,
like you.
right.
Like it's like you have to bring all this stuff and make it real, and with very little time. So, but these are all good opportunities. Like the driving instructor that we love so much.
Oh,
He's
I
so
love him.
real,
Yeah.
stark, and real.
Yes.
However, it's partly because it feels like he's genuinely upset and tired and wants to get the heck out of there, and
Right.
like is shocked by Columbo's terrible driving and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I remember, like I mentioned when we reviewed it the first time, I remember that episode because of that guy
Hmm.
and how good he was. And
Yeah.
so these other actors they're not bad, but they don't have that performance like that guy, the driving instructor. So when you can
Yeah.
really like up the ante with your position and like the butler in the Double Shock, not the butler, I'm sorry, the lady who
Yeah.
works
The
at
house
the house, her whole
manager. Hmm.
yeah, her reactions feel organic.
Yeah.
That's why I was a little critical of the butler's reaction to Columbo in the beginning. He doesn't really
Beginning.
know him, so I don't know why he's so
Right.
unless he's
Like,
just
where's
stuck
this
up,
coming from? Yeah.
But hers was more organic and great, and it never stopped. Like I want to watch that episode again because of her. She's so funny.
Yeah.
She's so mad, and they even have that whole scene in the kitchen where he's trying to apologize to her.
He's like, "Oh, I love health cookies."
Is that what he says?
Yeah, she's like, "Would
Yeah.
you like some health?" She's trying to create a bridge, a peace
Uh,
offering. Would you like a health cookie? He's like, "Oh yes, I love health cookies." Something like that. No, I appreciate your perspective, Paul, because I feel like that all probably, if they had had a little more time or maybe a little more direction on who are these characters, what kind of cop am I, what am I doing in this moment, like it would have been a more fun storyline, I guess.
yeah, and this is the 5th season, so a lot of these actors who do roles like smaller roles and shows and stuff, they're probably like, "Holy crap, I get to be with Columbo because Columbo is a hit."
Right.
So
Yeah.
here you're on a big show, and then you're with this guy who's I don't know if he won any Emmys at this point, but everybody's just like he's so wonderful.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
obviously he's so wonderful because he's people still all over the world still watch this show and talk about it.
I mean, some crazy weirdos even have podcasts about it. It's
True.
like, what? How is this happening?
The Campbells and the Montezes, the
Okay, Paul,
Borellas.
it's time for breakfast. Let's go.
All right.
So we're going to head over to the Wheelers for breakfast, and we're going to have breakfast with Grace.
Oh, this you can see that Pasadena bridge. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
You can see when they're walking, and he's walking in the back of the butler.
You can see real stuff there.
So that is closer to the Rose Bowl.
Huh?
So yeah, I should. I'm sorry, I didn't look it up on Google Maps or anything, but yeah, I remember watching this, going like, "Oh yeah, that's Pasadena," and not knowing that it really was. I was like, "That looks like Pasadena."
Yeah, this is legit Pasadena. I might make you drive over there and take a photo in front of the Wheeler house for our Instagram.
Okay, then yeah, I'll do that. Text me.
So Columbo is at the Wheelers. He kind of nails down the timeline for the night of the murder with Raymond, the butler, and wants to verify, are you sure that the movie was still going after 1? Raymond is sure because Carson ends. It starts at 11:30. It ends at 1. The Carson ended, and then the film, and then he went to Dr. Willis's room. So, and Columbo also, while he's visiting, asks if he can go check out Dr. Willis's medical files, which are stored in some locked, filing cabinet somewhere in the house. Raymond allows him to because Raymond is very annoyed, but Columbo is convincing, like, I just need to understand, maybe there's more information here about his health that will help explain the suicide and, help me close this case, basically. And meanwhile, Grace and Ned are having breakfast together. She's in another feathery robe, a different one. She can't remember
with
her
ribbons,
with ribbons.
Yeah, these like
Nice.
light satin ribbons.
Oh my goodness, Paul, you're showing me up here. How do I not remember the ribbons?
And he has an ascot. Did you mention that?
Oh,
like
yes, there
ascot?
are the ribbons. So they're having breakfast, and just Ned and Grace. She can't remember her new partner's name. She's not pleased with her new partner because she got a little bit of pushback or sass or something at their last practice, which we get to see, earlier. We got to see that. And like you pointed out, Paul, it might have been that she was messing up or he was messing up. But either way, he wasn't deferring to her the way she would have, wanted her partner to.
Yeah.
And Ned says, "Oh, he's great, Grace. He's going to be a smash hit." And she gets really upset. She says, "Are you insinuating that I'm not strong enough to carry the show by myself?" Ned is a little concerned, worried about her. And here we learn the backstory of Wheeler and Diamond, that when their careers were at their peak, as there were these two dancers, performers, Ned was drinking too much. He got in a car accident. He injured his leg, and he had to kind of stop performing with her. So we learn a little bit of that history here. And Grace kind of loses it over the dancer as well. She gets really upset about her dance partner, really wants a new one. And again, we see Ned is kind of like absorbing all of this with a little concern about, is she okay? Like, he doesn't totally know what to make of it.
Yeah, she's great. She's so good at this scene.
Yeah, she's super good. She's really good. She looks like a person on the edge, and she just like really gets upset, but she's like trying to hold it in, and she's very convincing, very believable. Okay, Paul, is it time for ice cream?
It's time. Did you bring some mint chocolate? It's
Uh-huh.
got to be gluten free though.
Gluten free, gluten free. Actually, I don't have any ice cream, but Dog is getting an ice cream cone, and Columbo is getting an ice cream cone. And this is one of the two locations that is linked to this episode, there's still an ice cream shop at this address in Los Angeles. It's on Vantage Avenue in Studio City.
Okay.
And today the ice cream shop is called Uncle Polly's.
Oh.
Yeah. And then when this was filmed, it looked like it was something different, but it looks very much the same today as it did
Cool.
in this one. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, the studio, the ice cream shop looks very much the same, but the street has changed a little bit. Like the building across the street is a little bit different. Columbo and Dog have stopped for ice cream, and an officer from Internal Affairs has found him and again threatened him. Excuse me. About his recent gun practice. Says you're gonna get fired or something like that if you don't, go to the firing range and get your practice in or pass your test. Pass your test, basically. Paul, are you ready
Mike Lally.
for a party?
Party with Mike Lally.
Mike Lally's there?
With talking to Janet, yeah.
Oh my gosh, how did I miss him?
He's different because I feel like he's like, I'm talking to Janet Leigh.
I did not see him at the party. I can't believe it.
He looks a little different from that angle.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad you caught that. So, at the Wheeler house, Grace and Ned are throwing a party. Grace is wearing solid head-to-toe pink diamond earrings, feather trim, more feather. She loves feather trim. She's got it on her pants and on her hairband. And they're entertaining guests and talking about the upcoming show. And Ned and Grace actually start performing a song and dance number from the upcoming show. And outside, Columbo and Dog have pulled up to the Wheeler residence.
May I say something?
Of course.
So, who do you think the costume designer was? Don't look it up.
Was it Burton Miller?
It was Burton Miller.
Yeah. He likes the solids, right? King of the solids.
Burton Miller? No, that's the other guy.
Oh, Grady. I'm confusing him with Grady. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, Burton Miller was Lee Grant's dude.
Right.
That's why it's so different. Don't you think? Mm-hmm. Like the sort of everything she has, right?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. But there are still a lot of solid colors, not a lot of patterns in this episode.
If you insist, Liz.
We do have we have the broadcaster at the beginning who has some patterns on his suit, but I think almost every other costume is a solid color, which is why I thought it was the guy. Yeah, the guy who's been doing the most of them for a while. Yeah, and there are more details like there's like brooches I didn't mention, like some diamond brooches and droopy diamond earrings, but it's not like super exciting costuming in this one, like
how dare you?
I'm sorry. I take it back. Paul.
Burton's ghost's gonna hover over you.
No. Okay, so Columbo shows up during the party. Raymond greets him. Columbo says, I just need to check something in the bedroom. Columbo sees the party. He hears the music, and he does kind of like a dance. He kind of dances his way up the stairs. I don't know if you caught that, Paul, but it's kind of cute. He's like feeling inspired, and he's kind of like moving his body to the music and moving up the stairs. It's not a typical Columbo move. Doesn't get to dance very often as a homicide detective.
Yeah, good catch. I didn't quite get that, but I see it.
It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, he definitely does the whole turn thing. Yeah,
it was fun. Okay, so once he gets upstairs, he's back in Henry's room, and he's trying to see if it really is that hard to climb that tree from the balcony. He leans out and he grabs it, and he does it. So he is able to reach that tree from the balcony and then drop down to the grass down below without it's not super difficult for him. Meanwhile, Grace just invited her guests into the living room to screen a movie, and she's closing all the curtains so that it's nice and dark in there so you can actually see what's on the screen. And she notices that Columbo is dangling from the tree. She closes the curtain, then she goes outside and she asks him, "Have you taken leave of your senses?" As he's down on the ground. He's just jumped out of the tree. And this is another one of those moments, Paul, where it's like really unclear if she's playing a role or if she really doesn't know. But she tells Columbo that she thinks he knows why he's hanging around her home.
Oh.
She thinks it's because he really enjoys being around the magic of show business.
Yeah. So that would go along also with like not knowing your audience, not knowing unless she's pulling a gag, but I don't here it feels like it's a little, but maybe it's presumptuous too. If she thought she could fool him here at this point still.
Yeah, maybe. And if that's what she's doing, she's so believable. It comes across as so genuine. It comes across as like she has no ulterior motive at all. She genuinely believes he is infatuated with Hollywood and her celebrity.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's how she convinced me. I let me just put it that way, that I felt convinced by her acting. And my other note about this moment is that she invites him to join them. She's very gracious about his disruption. And then she also says, well, okay, if you're not going to come now, come another night this week. Bring your wife. And he says, okay, I will. And now we are nearing the very end of this episode. We have another scene at Ned Diamond's dance studio. This is where we get some resolution on that B storyline. So there's another man at Ned Diamond's dance studio looking for Columbo. He doesn't have a name. He doesn't really explain himself, but he is there to meet Columbo. I don't know. I can't remember if he knows why he's there. And Columbo says, "Hey, I need you to go to the pistol range."
Yeah, he didn't quite know.
Yeah,
he's
he didn't know either.
He's unnerving to everybody. Like he does seem kind of threatening.
Totally. Everyone's like, what is going on? Who is this guy?
He did 3 episodes of Columbo, by the way.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did Sergeant Burke. Yeah, Sergeant Burke in 2 episodes in season 7. So
is he in Make Me a Perfect Murder?
Yes.
Okay.
Sergeant Burke.
I thought I recognized him. What's the other one he's in? Sharp as a tack over here, Paul. Come on.
Try and Catch Me.
Oh,
season
I don't
1,
remember him.
Or
okay.
Season 7, episode 1.
That's a good one. I don't remember his role, but I definitely remember him in the other one I mentioned.
It's a Sergeant Burke character again.
I don't know if you noticed that after Columbo convinces him to go do this for him, he blows him a kiss. Did you see that? I got to add that to me.
Peter Falk does?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to add that to my list.
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
It's kind of funny.
That's the Cassavetes and him coming out.
What got into him here? Blowing kisses to other police officers?
He's cutting him a break. He's like, he can't believe it, right?
Yeah, but you don't blow a kiss in 1975 to your fellow officer.
Yeah, if you're drinking beer with Cassavetes, you do.
Okay.
They show their bellies, Anyway, we're going to go there.
Paul, we're going to have a special episode on Falk and Cassavetes. What was going on there?
Well, maybe Peter Falk liked him. I don't know.
All right. So anyhow, back to the scene at Ned Diamond's studio. Columbo and Ned talk. Ned wants Columbo to leave her alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Columbo says, I can't. I think she killed her husband. And he lays it all out on the line for Ned. Explains everything, pretty much everything he knows. Maybe not everything, but most of what he knows. And then he tells Ned, I'm going to go over to her house tomorrow night or whatever upcoming night. And if you care about her, you should be there too.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't totally know why he wanted him to go as well.
Well, because he can. I mean, he's almost like the only person of reason who knows all the issues going on here. He knows that she's struggling in a certain way, that she cares about her, and that he's also an honest guy. So it's like he's got to pull her in there. He knows that he will do anything for her, probably.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that kind of what he doesn't want when he's trying to arrest his, like, wouldn't you want your main suspect kind of like isolated or
Not if he realizes these issues going on.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
The cognitive.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so now we're in the final scene. We're back at the Wheeler residence. It's nighttime. Columbo looks very fancy, very dapper. He's in a tuxedo. And again, we hear the music composed by, I forget his name
Kurt
already.
Weill.
Yeah, really nice music playing. And again, I feel like I'm in like a 1950s movie. I feel like I'm in a black and white, like Casablanca or something. Two people about to have a very meaningful conversation with very few words, kind of a scene.
Mm-hmm.
And Columbo and Ned chat. She greets them. She's so busy hosting and kind of getting things, finding stuff, that Columbo and Ned have many moments to talk, just the two of them. And this is where Columbo explains even more of the issues. He explains how the runtime of the movie doesn't match up with when the film ended on the night of the murder.
And he whispers all this to him, like they don't want her to
Yeah,
hear.
right. Yeah, they're like whispering together while she's kind of like running around and making sure everything is perfect. Also, oh, this is another beverage option which we had, which was champagne, but I don't think Columbo has a single sip of the champagne. Columbo says he thinks the reason the runtime of the film was so different was that the film broke. She was off murdering Henry, so she didn't realize that the film had broken. And so there was like this extra 15 minutes where this film is not playing and she's murdering Henry, basically. And he shares that he fixed the film tonight so that it will break again and they can see, like, what does she do and how fast can she fix that. And then they sit down to start watching, and the film does break. And then he starts timing her and seeing how long it takes. She gets pretty flustered by it all, but she's able to do it. And then Columbo again says, he explains kind of like why this is important, that the film broke on the night of the murder, but she wasn't in the room to see that it had happened. And that's where the extra time came from. And now we finally learn about her cognitive issues. He shows Ned the medical file that he found for one of Henry Willis's patients that Henry had called or labeled as Rosie. And according to this, she has an aneurysm, and that explains her memory issue. So, I'm definitely not an expert on this, but I think writers took some liberties in terms of what an aneurysm would do for your memory, because here they're making it sound like her memory is going to slowly decline over time and get like worse over time. But an aneurysm is often more of an acute event where you have an aneurysm and then afterwards your memory can be an issue and then it can kind of heal and recover. So I don't know if this is like the best medical explanation, but I don't know. It is what it is.
I feel like they're still figuring out what's around that kind of stuff back then. From what I remember watching this, like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge that we have, 50 years later that they didn't have at the time. But you could imagine that somebody had something terminal that was going to The idea in this plot was that she had an aneurysm that was going to somehow rupture within like 2 months and could not be operated on. And so I'm sure there's probably many other conditions that could kind of fall in this realm today. And I don't know how accurate this is, but we kind of get the idea. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, her reaction, like, what are you talking about? Like, it's so strong.
Yeah.
She's in
Yeah.
tears.
Yeah. She overhears the two of them talking about Henry's death and how it wasn't a suicide. And that, yeah, she's like freaking out. And then Ned says, I did it. I need to tell you, I did it. I did it for Grace. Columbo says, as the two of them are leaving, he says, it's not going to take very much to break your story. And Ned says, well, it might take you a couple of months, which is, in theory, how long Grace has left to live because of this aneurysm. And then Columbo looks at him and says, yes, yes, it might. And it's kind of hard to read Columbo in this moment. Like, I don't know if Columbo is, I don't really know how he's feeling in that moment. Like, is he kind of somewhat satisfied or disappointed? What was your.
I think he's always so used to nailing the culprit that he's like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, he's more sympathetic. You know what I mean? Like, because otherwise, why is he still going after and going after? And if she doesn't know now that she's even the one who did it, but he's so persistent still. He's the master sleuth. He wants to know it. Like, no, it's going this way.
Mhm.
I hate to break it to you, but we gotta, But then of course he doesn't. He's never had this before.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good reaction because he's kind of like, okay, you're right. I give up. He puts his hands up after the guy's already gone. He lifts them in the
Mhm.
air. Like, oh yeah, I guess, yeah.
So you're saying he's pretty sympathetic to her and he's okay
Well,
not
I mean, only
closing us.
because like he feels like I guess John or Ned Diamond has a good point. That is a good point. If she's gonna die in 2 months,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, and we're gonna try and I know she did it and he didn't do it, so it's like let's maybe we just call this one quits, or unsolved. Yeah, what you thought like his reaction should have been different.
No, no, I just wasn't sure what he was trying to convey in that moment exactly. And you know what it reminds me of, Paul, is oh gosh, the movie, is it Breakback Mountain? Is that the one with Jake Gyllenhaal and Heath Ledger?
Mm-hmm. Ang Lee, yeah,
Yep.
directed.
And Anne Hathaway, I heard her talk about, so there's a moment near the end of that film, spoiler
Spoiler,
alert,
spoiler alert.
spoiler alert, where
Spoiler alert.
where her husband, so Anne Hathaway was married to Jake Gyllenhaal in the film, and near the end of that film, we learn that he was killed for being gay, basically,
Oh,
and she is retelling the story
oh, okay.
over the phone to someone, and she talked about how the director told her to tell it, so they took multiple takes. In some takes they were like, okay, Anne, in this take, tell the story like you know why your husband was really killed because he was gay, and then in the next take tell the story like you don't, like you think it was an accident, that like a tire exploded in his face and he died. And so she took multiple takes where she didn't know which, where she took multiple takes where she knew and then she didn't know. And then in the final cut, she's not really sure which take they included in the final cut of that film. Like, was it the one where she really knew why he died, or was it one where she didn't really know why he died? Like it was in her mind a true accident.
Hmm.
Anyhow, sorry, my tangent to say that sometimes I wonder, like for Columbo in this moment, was this a take where he was happy or upset, or maybe he doesn't even, like, we don't even totally know which take it was, like about his outcome, because normally he catches the bad guy and they get arrested and they
Mm-hmm.
are going to go to trial for what they've done. And in this one, we don't get that satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, that they obviously must have gone through when they do the final cut and they show it to the executives at the this is Universal, and then before that to Dean Hargrove was one of the main producers, right? Everett
Sounds right.
Chambers. So Everett
Hmm.
Chambers had to have watched this cut at some point.
Yeah.
And I would imagine Peter Falk as well. I don't
Yeah.
know. So it's like you have these different voices. Well, what about this? And then depending what else they're doing, if Peter Falk is doing a Cassavetes film, maybe he doesn't give that third round of notes for that final cut,
Yeah.
where he misses the take and like the take, or I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but you have many cooks and you're on a
Yeah.
cook timeline. So you have the executives at the studio at the Universal, was it NBC, right?
Yeah. NBC.
Yeah, and then you have before that you have the other ones, the Everett Chambers, but then you also had Jamie Kaler was the editor, and they did McCloud, Hunter, a lot of TV stuff, $6 Million Man, Eight is Enough, 2 episodes of Columbo. So they did one in season 5. Now You See Him. Jamie edited that one also.
Oh, yeah. I
But
love that one.
so yeah, like who chose that take? You imagine they would have more than one take, but
Yeah,
not
for
always.
sure.
Now they're shooting with 2 and 3 cameras always. But so yeah, no, yeah, how they picked that one. I like that one though. I liked the reaction. This one's was very different,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
many ways. Like just
Hmm.
what you're talking about, his reaction at the end. Like, did he want that? He didn't want it. What's he going to do?
Hmm.
It's sort of like
Yeah,
that
there's
little conundrum for him.
a lot of ambiguity in how he responds.
Hmm. Maybe he
Um,
took it up.
yeah. And then the last little note I have here is that after Ned and Columbo leave, that Grace is sitting alone in the screening room
Hmm.
watching herself as a star. I think she has a tear or two on her face. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's the end of Forgotten Lady, Paul. Whoa.
Yeah.
We got into the weeds there. So, normally we rate from 1 to 10 every episode that we watch. Paul, what is your rating for this one?
My rating for this one, did I write it in my big notebook or my small one? I gave it like a 7.9.
Oh, wow, Paul. That's pretty high.
Yeah, I maybe I do so many like that, but there's like these little things because it's kind of sad, it's like a
It's
sad one
super
when you.
sad. Super sad. Yeah.
It's weird because they're all kind of victims, the husband,
Hmm.
she is the wife, the friend,
Totally.
and you just sort of go between them constantly. Yeah, I liked it. I like that she the only one who gets away.
Hmm. I believe so. I believe this is the only murderer who ever does not get caught.
Like, I guess she does, but not really.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't lost in her watching her movies.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like that whole, like, she just wants to be back into that heat that she, or that life that she had. But yeah, I like this one. I do wish it was. I do wish it was stronger and somehow.
Mhm.
With there's no real jousting because you're not even sure if she's aware of.
Right. You don't even know how much she understands.
But like, if anybody could pull it off, it's like she was one of the perfect
Oh, yeah.
performers to like do this heavy role of like all these elements of forgetfulness and having a
Yeah.
not vascular dementia, but brain aneurysm, as you said,
An aneurysm.
aneurysm.
Mhm.
There was a guy in El Paso when in one of the old folks' homes, and I can't remember how I ended up going there, but I think it had to do with Catholic Charities, maybe, or maybe I looked it up or something. But I went there, and they as a volunteer, to like help,
Yeah.
and they wanted me to go talk to this man, and he didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was, but they're like they just want people to come in and talk to them, like
Mhm.
to show them time. Dementia. He had, I don't know if it was vascular dementia, but he didn't know his family, and he was a much older man. He was an old folks home basically.
Yeah.
But I think I went a couple times, and he wouldn't remember. But I
Hmm.
just remembered it was kind of disturbing because I was pretty young, but it was more sad, I guess, than it was just tough. Like I could feel like he seemed like he was in such a quandary.
Hmm.
This man, like it was just like these little rooms all in one area. It wasn't like a hotel, or it was very less appealing. Not that living in a hotel is appealing, or a retirement place is appealing, depending on what kind. But
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, what did you rate it?
I was thinking about this. I think this is kind of a lower one for me. So I'm going to say it's like a 6.5 or a 7, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, like you said, it's because there's a bit of sadness. Like the whole episode, there's an underlying sadness. And that's not why I watch Columbo. Like, I'm not looking for a sad story. I'm looking for like a satisfying, like an interesting and satisfying mystery, right? And this one had a bit of sadness to it. She's an aging actress stuck in the past with a fatal illness, not all there. And it's just kind of hard to watch her go down, you know?
This one got 8.0
Yeah.
on IMDb. That's pretty
IMDb or
big.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the other piece for me is that at the very end,
Hmm.
I felt like there was so much explaining in that final scene
Oh,
between
oh.
Columbo and Ned. It was like, oh my goodness, he's going to explain this and this and this. And I felt like it's just too much telling, not enough showing. And maybe they could have simplified his gotcha to like one thing, just have one last piece fall into place in this final scene versus like having to explain two big things. Like, this is where we learn about her whole memory thing. Like, we don't
Hmm.
know what's going on with her memory until this final scene. But then this is also where we learn about the film not ending on time and it breaking. I just felt like it was too much to go over.
Hmm.
It would have been more fun if it was just one thing that Columbo had to explain to Ned, to the audience, to kind of like wrap this case up and say, oh yes, she's definitely the one because of this one thing.
Hmm. Well, as our dad would say, life is not fair. Liz. Life
That's
is not
true.
fair.
That is true.
Did you see the poster for this one, where they have the guy?
Yes.
That is such a cool poster.
I need to look at it again. Okay, I'm going to add that to our list.
And
Um,
the wall in the projection booth, that wall is so cool looking. It's like glass, like this sort of tinted glass or something
oh,
in the projection room. Yeah, look
I,
at it again. It's really
okay.
beautiful.
I didn't even notice it. I'll
It's
add it
like
to the.
glass, like you can see through it almost. But yeah, this one's like a dramatic ensemble piece in a way. Not ensemble, but it's like a dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, I love Janet Leigh. She was so good. She was really fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, yeah. She's sort of made, and it was like the first one they showed. I don't think it was the first one they shot, if I remember correctly, but it's the first one they aired for season 5. So it had all this. NBC was probably like, yeah, we got to put this one up front. Let's get things
Yeah.
rolling. This big star
Janet
and this,
Leigh, we got Janet Leigh.
yeah, this whole thing.
Okay, Paul, do you have
All
some
right,
trivia questions for me? Let's
yeah.
go.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Number one.
Let's hear it.
Janet Leigh was married to Howard Hughes.
True.
False.
Dang it. Ah.
He was nuts about her and really creepy about her, and she was one of the few people who like he would pick her up and someone else in a plane and fly them to somewhere else where they thought they would be going to like on a date, and like, let's go to, yeah, bad news for her. Like she mentioned several times. Yeah, he
Yikes.
Yeah, she's like, who's the weird guy in the, like talk about how he looked, and they'd be like, that's Howard Hughes, because she acted in one of his films, or at least one. She was at RKO when Howard Hughes ran it, and he did this one flying one that she said was just so bad. It took him 7 years to finish it. 7 years. She stopped, of course, at one point, and came back to do voice or whatever. Okay, Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh got married on an ocean liner called the Columbo.
No. Oh my goodness. I don't know, Paul. I'm going to say true.
False.
Dang it.
In reality, Tony was finishing filming in Italy. They took an ocean liner back to the States called Cristoforo Colombo.
Oh, but that counts? Oh,
okay,
come
I'll give you that one.
Okay, good. Phew. I got one. 1 for 2.
Della Reese, the one who hosted the Carson Show, who we see as a guest on the Carson Show, she and her daughter Dumpsy, my sloppy handwriting. Okay, Della ran into this glass door at her house, and she cut herself, and she fell down, and she couldn't get up. And her dead mother picked her up and lifted her to get up and helped her. Like, started talking to her and told her exactly what to do.
Whoa, Paul.
According to Della Reese.
According to Della Reese. Oh my goodness. I have no idea. I'm going to say true.
Yeah. She said she was bleeding from her stomach, just really bad. Wow. And she couldn't lift herself up. And she heard her dead mom, talking to her. And then she felt her dead mom pick her up. Anyway, it's cool. It's in her autobiography.
Oh, that's cool. That's 3, Paul.
That's 3.
I think I should quit while I'm ahead. I'm at 2.
That's good. Yeah, we can stop there. The other ones are not nice about our stars and our stars' husbands and stuff. And I think we covered enough of that area.
Okay.
So, but yeah, good job.
Good job, Paul. We got through it. And good job, listener. If you're still with us, hands off. Okay. We want to thank Maxime Gervais for our theme song, Columbo. Thank you so much. And this podcast is edited by John Warenas. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John.
And if you'd like to add to our conversation, you can email us at trenchcoatcigar@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at trenchcoatcigar. That's where all of the photos will be. So check it out. And one more thing, Paul.
Really, Liz?
Yes, just one more thing.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yay!
Yay!
French coat cigar là toujours. Colombo, roman pour Colombo. Pas de gun, pas de look, what a look. Colombo. French coat cigar là toujours. Colombo, roman pour